Milk is the single most frequently purchased item in the modern grocery store. It is on almost every shopping list, bought on a predictable weekly cycle by nearly every customer who walks through the door. So, logically, if a supermarket were designed around basic customer convenience, milk would sit right at the front entrance to steps in, grab the carton, pay, and leave. Instead, in almost every supermarket format on Earth, milk is positioned in the farthest possible corner, locked against the back wall, past thousands of other products. That is not an accident, and it is not a design mistake, but the real reason it sits back there is far more complex than the standard consumer conspiracy theories claim. It is a story that involves razor-thin profit margins, cold chain thermodynamics, and one of the most brilliant real estate monetization strategies in modern business history. If you pick up a textbook on retail architecture or supermarket floor planning, you will immediately run into a concept known as destination items or power items. These are products that possess what economists call perfectly inelastic destination demand, meaning consumers are going to buy them regardless of where they are placed in the store. Because the grocer knows you are going to buy milk anyway, they hold all the spatial leverage. They do not need to coax you into the store with convenient milk placement. They can use your necessity to dictate your physical movement. This gives rise to what retail planners call anchor and route layout design. By scattering guaranteed destination staples, milk in one back corner, eggs in another, bread along a distant perimeter, the store forces you to trace a massive, multi-aisle path across the entire floor plan just to collect three basic items. The conventional wisdom says this is done purely for exposure density, to force you past as many shelves as possible, so you buy things you never planned to purchase. And on paper, that theory sounds complete. But if pure product exposure were the entire explanation, it leaves a massive logical hole that most retail commentators completely fail to address. Why doesn't every item get buried in the back? Why is paper towel in aisle 4, cereal in aisle 8, but milk is universally banished to the back perimeter? To understand that, you have to look at the financial engine under the hood of a supermarket. Grocery retail operates on some of the thinnest profit margins in the entire commercial world. Industry benchmarks from the Food Industry Association show that average supermarket net profit margins sit between 1.6% and 2.1%, out of a store doing $37 million in annual revenue, after paying for inventory, electricity, labor, and real estate. The owner might keep just $600,000 in net profit. Fluid milk itself is a massive revenue generator, accounting for over $6 billion in annual sales, but it carries low gross profit margins, typically around 20% to 21%. A store cannot survive by selling only low-margin staple items. To stay solvent, the store must use the guaranteed milk run to subsidize your exposure to high-margin impulse departments. Perimeter departments like the in-store bakery, the fresh deli, and prepared foods carry gross profit margins upwards of 40% to 50%. Studies on consumer buying behavior show that unplanned, impulse purchases account for anywhere from 22% to 47% of everything that ends up in a shopper's cart. By placing milk in the back corner, store architects force your path directly along the perimeter edges where high-margin, high-aroma items like fresh bread and cooked deli meats are displayed. The milk walk is fundamentally an automated marketing funnel designed for basket expansion. Now, here is where the story gets genuinely fascinating, because if you stop there, you are still only looking at half the picture. If you ask a store manager, a logistics coordinator, or a mechanical engineer why milk is in the back, they won't talk to you about behavioral psychology or basket expansion. They will tell you something completely different. Milk is in the back wall because putting it anywhere else is an industrial nightmare. Consider the sheer physical burden of fluid milk. A single gallon of milk weighs 8.6 pounds. A single delivery pallet packed with dairy holds 224 gallons and weighs over 1,900 pounds, nearly a full ton. An average supermarket sells hundreds of gallons of milk every single day, making it one of the heaviest, highest turnover categories in the entire building. Now, trace where that milk comes from. It arrives on a 53-foot refrigerated semi-truck, backed up to the store's rear loading dock. Fluid milk is highly perishable and must be kept strictly between +2°C and +4°C, or roughly 35°F to 39°F, at all times. If milk breaks that cold chain, bacterial growth accelerates and its shelf life collapses. If the milk display were placed at the front entrance, store employees would have to wheel multiple 1900-pound pallets out of the receiving bay, through narrow customer-filled aisles, across hundreds of feet of tiled sales floor, multiple times per day. That process breaks the cold chain by exposing delicate product to 70-degree room temperatures, creates massive safety hazards for shoppers, damages floor infrastructure, and drains hundreds of labor hours every month. To solve this, supermarket architects designed dairy display cases as wall cutouts integrated directly into the front wall of a massive back-of-house walk-in cold room. When a dairy truck docks at the rear of the building, dock shelters seal the vehicle against the building envelope to block warm outdoor air, a process known in engineering as controlling the infiltration load. Pallets move straight from the refrigerated trailer directly into the walk-in cooler in seconds, without ever touching ambient sales floor air. Inside that cooler, staff restock the display cases from behind the glass using inclined, gravity-fed metal shelving. As a customer pulls a jug of milk off the front shelf on the sales floor, gravity slides the next jug forward from inside the cold room. This design accomplishes 4 critical operational goals simultaneously. 1. It maintains a 100% continuous cold chain from farm to customer hand. 2. Allows restocking without blocking customer aisles or disrupting foot traffic. 3. It optimizes building energy costs by centralizing heavy refrigeration compressors along a single rear utility wall. 4. It drastically reduces labor costs in an industry operating on razor-thin margins. So the back wall placement of milk wasn't originally created as a psychological trap. It was dictated by industrial thermodynamics, structural engineering, and cold chain survival. And this brings us to the core synthesis of the entire system, the moment where physical necessity and behavioral economics collide. The store layout engineers did not invent the back wall placement of milk purely to trick you. The mechanical engineers forced milk to the back because that was the only place cold chain logistics made sense. But once that structural layout was locked in stone, retail strategists realized something profound. The mandatory cold chain infrastructure had created a guaranteed, highly predictable human migration pattern across their building. If every customer is physically required to walk 150 feet from the front doors to the rear cold room, that 150-foot pathway instantly becomes the most valuable real estate in the store. The grocer essentially takes a mandatory operational burden and monetizes it as high-density advertising space. Every foot of walkway along that route is engineered down to the millimeter. High-margin perimeter departments are staged along the journey. End-cap displays facing the main walkways are sold off to major consumer packaged goods brands through promotional allowances. Even within individual center store aisles, a secondary layer of real estate monetization is occurring: the slotting system. Food manufacturers routinely pay grocers anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 per store format for premium eye-level shelf placement known as eye-level is buy-level placement, because products at eye level generate vastly higher conversion rates than items placed near the floor. The walk to the milk case is not just a walk past products, it is a walk through a tightly negotiated matrix of physical ad inventory, where shelf height, department positioning, and lighting are all continuously optimized to convert a $3.0 dairy run into a $70.0 checkout receipt. Once you understand this principle, identifying a non-negotiable physical destination and monetizing the path required to reach it, you start noticing it running underneath almost every modern commercial environment. In airport terminals, security checkpoints are the ultimate non-negotiable destination. Once passengers pass security, airport designs force travelers through sprawling, serpentine, duty-free retail corridors before reaching departure gates. In retail pharmacies, prescription pickup counters are placed at the absolute back of the store. While patients wait 15 minutes for a prescription, they are stranded in a maze of high-margin greeting cards, cosmetics, and over-the-counter health supplements, a category carrying profit margins nearly 10 times higher than standard grocery items. In shopping malls, layouts are structured entirely around anchor tenants, massive department stores located at opposite ends of a sprawling concourse, designed specifically to generate the pedestrian traffic that keeps smaller, high-rent inline retailers profitable. In mass warehouses, membership clubs position high-turnover rotisserie chickens and basic bakery goods at the far back wall, forcing members past thousands of dollars of high-ticket electronics, appliances, and seasonal apparel on every visit. In every case, the underlying logic is identical: separate the human from their destination using high-margin commercial space. Which brings us to a fascinating forward-looking question. As millions of shoppers transition to digital carts, online delivery apps, and automated pickup, does the physical anchor and route strategy collapse? When a consumer opens a grocery delivery app, searches milk, clicks add to cart, and immediately hits checkout, they have successfully bypassed 200 feet of physical shelf exposure. They didn't smell the bakery, they didn't walk past the deli, and they didn't see the eye-level end cap displays. To survive this shift, e-commerce designers have spent years digitally rebuilding the back wall. When you search for milk in a modern grocery app, the interface rarely takes you straight to your cart. Instead, software algorithms inject digital speed bumps, interstitial pop-ups displaying frequently bought together items, sponsored brand placement carousels, and checkout page impulse recommendations. The physical walk past the bakery has simply been converted into an algorithmic scroll past recommended product cards. The medium changes, but the underlying business mechanic remains completely immortal. The next time you walk into a grocery store for a single gallon of milk and walk out 15 minutes later carrying $40 worth of groceries, remember what actually happened. You didn't just fall for a retail trick, and you didn't just walk through an operational layout, you participated in a perfectly balanced system where industrial cold chain physics and behavioral real estate engineering work in seamless harmony. Understanding these hidden mechanics changes how you navigate the physical world. That is exactly what this channel exists to do, unpacking the invisible business systems, operational realities, and financial engineering operating right underneath our daily lives. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to see how this exact same psychological and financial engineering is used in high-stakes negotiations, watch our next episode on car dealership financing, where we unpack the deliberate, multi-layered reason why the true price of a vehicle becomes harder to calculate the longer you sit inside the finance office. Thanks for watching. And next time you reach into that cold dairy case at the back of the store, remember, every single foot of that walk was mapped out years before you ever walked through the door.